All right, knife fans, YouTube, here's what we're talking about today. I'm always reevaluating my my knives because they're just a hobby. I like things. I have a short attention span, but also a lot of times I kind of fall in love with the idea or the look of something, but then the reality of carrying it every day. I've got my larger, heavy duty, good stabbing, tactical type blades, which are really cool. They're good, hard use knives. They're cool materials. They're very nice designs. Feel good in the hand. I like flicking them and playing with them, and they're up to the task. But then there's the more practical side of me that looks at things like the Swiss Army knives and says, look, could I defend myself with one of those other knives? Sure. Am I likely to get attacked by attackers and get into a knife fight? Probably not. If I were unlucky enough to get, in a situation where I had to defend myself, I'm reaching for my sidearm, which is always on my hip anyway, and I'm going to use bullets, not a blade. So while I could use it for those other tasks, and there's times where, having the bigger blade is nice, and there's times I will carry that. On a day-to-day basis, I figure, what am I actually doing with a knife? Well, I'm opening boxes, I'm cutting something, I need scissors, I need a screwdriver, I need file, I got to pry something, I've got to put a hole in something, And so then you get into, okay, well, the Swiss Army knife is probably the best bet for, EDC and everyday tasks, the things that you're most likely expected to encounter in life. And so then I get particular about what I like. I'm like, well, can I bridge the gap between my tactical stuff and, an everyday carry Swiss Army knife? Having one-handed opening is kind of important to me. Having a locking blade, so I don't have to worry about stabbing into something and having it close and cutting my fingers off or severing nerves and tendons and things. And, who wants that nonsense? So, having that lock, having it open and close with one hand, and having all those other tools. So on paper, you look at this and go, perfect. Or my locksmith, the Victorinox locksmith. But there's always compromises. The Victorinox version of the one-handed just doesn't open that well. It's kind of clumsy. And once you realize how to do it, you know how to grab it, becomes muscle memory. But it's not intuitive like a Spyderco or something else, like a Benchmade, where anybody could pick it up and flick it open the first time. The other downside is that while I like this for being easy one-hand opening, having a push-button lock, boom, close it easy one-handed, it doesn't have the pocket clip, so you're giving up that. It's also really big and heavy. And, if I'm wearing cargo shorts or something, I find that I'm having to change up my knife carry depending on what it is how I'm dressed that day, where I'm going. Because this thing weighs like 7 ounces or something like that. It's a big piece with lots of steel and stuff, big long blades. It's a really good knife, but is it practical for carrying every day? Not really. If I'm wearing jeans because I'm riding, all right, I've got a gun on one hip, so I've got that extra weight. I've got a pocket knife in that same pocket because I'm right-handed. I've got either a spare magazine or a stripper clip with 6.38 Special or 357 Magnum rounds. I've got car keys. I got a pack of mints. I got my wallet. I've got my cell phone, which is a Note 20, so it's a big cell phone. I mean, before you know it, it's like, God, I need a purse. I have to all this stuff. So I'm like, what if I had to go smaller? And so that's where actually, like right now, this is the one I actually carry the most often because it is locking. I did reprofile the tip, so it is very sharp and stabby now. The blade does lock, even though it's not a one-hand deployment. I do have to use both hands, but it does lock open. It's got a longer blade. It's got a can opener and screwdrivers and a Phillips head and, basic stuff on it. So I find that this one kind of fits the bill. But then there's times where you want a little more or you want something even smaller. And the problem is when you go in Swiss Army knives, it's kind of like, there's the Goldilocks size here, but I cannot find the damn configuration I want. What I want is a one-handed trekker with a non-serrated blade. They don't make it anymore. I can't find it. So that's out, unless I happen to find a used one somewhere. So then you go to one step down. These are a little too big for everyday carry. This is just right. These to me are kind of too small. I mean, they're useful. You can certainly cut things with it. And you got multiple little blades here, and you got screwdrivers and tweezers, and I think this one packs a saw as well. So you can get a lot of little tools in here, things you probably use at least one of these tools every day. And I do find myself doing that. I'm reaching for something. I'm like, I gotta go out to the garage, or I'm out on the bike and I gotta tighten a screw or something. And it's like, all right, well, if it's a flathead, I got that covered. If it's this. But again, it's just very small, and I don't like these plastic handles. I like these ones. They're not shiny. They just feel a little better. These things get scratched up and look like crap, and they're just very slick. And to me, these feel cheap. These feel a little better. But it's just small. They're very thin, tiny, flexible blades. It's good for like little precision work and a penknife, but I just never feel, ugh. So I do like the Suiza. The Suiza is actually cool. I wish they made some different configurations and made a larger one because it's got a soft, really grippy, it fills my hand a little bit better than that, and it's got a curve that kind of follows the arc of your palm. It's also, even though it's single hand open, or one hand, sorry, it's not single hand opening, it's also got a lock. Push button lock. It's actually a liner lock, and that gets pushed out of the way when you push the button. So that's kind of cool. I like that this has the awl on the end rather than this, because this is good to really get on something and use your whole hand. But you're kind of limited then because your hand's here, so whatever you're doing, you better be having right access to it, and you can only go that deep, as opposed to when it's on the end of the knife. If I had to reach in and put a hole in something, maybe to zip tie something out of the, whatever, I can reach in and get into a tighter space and dig with that. You also got your can openers here, and you got your bottle openers and your screwdrivers and stuff. So I really like the Suiza. I like the Suiza better, frankly, than the Victorinox because of the lock and because it's also got a significantly larger blade while being in a similarly sized package. It also feels just a little heavier duty. Whether it is, I don't know. It just feels that way. So here's one that I just picked up. And I already took the keychain off because I think they're stupid. I just don't see the point on that. And I'm going to be filing that off. I don't know why Victorinox puts these on there. I'm sure there's some knife aficionados that, actually put this on a keychain or a lanyard. I don't need that. The problem with it is if it was something that was out of the way, but when you grip the knife, it's painful. Like that thing sticks out. It's thin. The edges are not sharp to cut you, but they're sharp. And that just pushes right into your palm. It's not comfortable to hold that knife. So that's going to be ground off, probably do it very carefully, but I'm going to have to take a Dremel and probably grind that off. Anyway, what I like about this is that it's a tiny bit thicker, but barely noticeably thicker, but it's a 4-layer. Because it's got these aluminum anodized, everything about this knife is beefier. We'll open it up. The blade's beefier. It's bigger. This is using, instead of like brass pivots in there, it's using stainless steel, and they're bigger. This is a harder use knife while being in that smaller category. It'll take much more abuse. There's not flex in it the way that there is on the aluminum, because these are aluminum liners with plastic on top. Whereas everything here is thick aluminum, and then you got heavy stainless steel springs and blades and stuff like that. So what we've got is the Farmer X. So the blade is a little bit bigger. It's closer in size to the Suiza. So not massively different, but it is different. And this one, unlike those, has a nice sharp point out of the box. I may touch that up a tiny bit just to make it a tiny bit stabbier, but that already is a better blade than what that came with. It's also a substantially thicker blade, like a good bit thicker. So that blade is got less flex to it. I mean, there's always some. So we've got that. It has the awl on the end like the Suiza, which is one of the things that I liked better about the Suiza. What I like, though, is that it's that same style. It's on the end, but it is longer. So it gives you even more reach. So it uses, I think this is kind of like the longer, bigger, like you get on the Victorinox, but it's in the location and style of the Suiza. It's kind of the best of both worlds. So really like that. We covered the main blade. Also comes with small saw. So if you're in the yard and you got to cut a branch or do something like that, you got that. It also has a set of scissors, which again, I'm constantly cutting something in the garage and I don't want to use a knife. I need to cut through something, and scissors are actually kind of handy. I mean, that's a good, handy, everyday use tool. We've also got the can opener with the small, screwdriver, as well as this. Now, this is not a locking one. So if you do put a lot of pressure on that and you turn it, you could get it to close, but it's not going to like cut you. But you could slip off of something, so you want to be careful. It's not like these where that actually the liner lock on one end that locks the blade also locks that. So that's fixed now. I can't go anywhere. On this one, I believe it's got the notch in there. It does. So when you push that in, when you're putting pressure on something, it clicks into place and locks it. So this doesn't have that. You give that up. You give up in an effort to have the taller blades this way. It doesn't leave room on the back for things like the Phillips screwdriver. So you do give some things up. You give up the Phillips screwdriver, which I'm not happy about, but it's a story with every damn Swiss Army knife. They have so many combinations, except for the combination that I want. So it's always a compromise. I get something that's a little heavier, still compact, but comes with, in the same size package, comes with a much better tool set. And a harder finish, and it's just a better, heavy use knife. Thicker blades, everything about it is just a step up in quality, a step up in feel, durability, things like that. But you're still making compromises. That's my only gripe with Swiss Army knives. I really wish they had a configurator and you could go in and say, okay, this is what I want. Now, maybe that's just not practical because, they're not a small custom knife shop that only cranks out, 100 knives a day or something like that, or, whatever. They're cranking out, mass production because these are eminently popular around the world. And the reality is coming up with every goofy, type of combination that people might want on demand just isn't feasible, in that kind of volume. So I get it, but I'm still complaining. I'm still whining. I still really think that I'm just wiping some of the oil that this thing ships with off of there. But it would be nice to have that. But this is the there's the Pioneer X and this is the Farmer X. The difference is that the Pioneer X doesn't have the scissors. That's why I went for this one. That's actually kind of useful. So I give up the Phillips screwdriver, unfortunately. I think there are situations where, depending on the size of the Phillips head, you might be able to use the small end of that in the Phillips, but it's obviously not going to be as good as, a bespoke Phillips head screwdriver. So Swiesa does make one of these. I think you can get the saw and the scissors. It might be the SW06, and they make a two-handed opening. I just haven't seen them anywhere here in the States. The second I do, that could become a good EDC. But I do like this. If I'm going to carry a small multi-tool, I feel like this is probably the one I'm going to carry if I need something really little that just I can slide into a pocket. Or carry this in conjunction with, a bigger tactical blade or something like that. But it's in the same size. It just gives you, I think, a better selection of tools other than that omission right there. But that is the Farmer X. Very cool knife. You can get them in different colors. There's an orange. Oh, no, there's a red one. The Pioneer X comes in orange. Couldn't find the Farmer X in that. The red ones are sold out. So I did find the blue one. I think the blue one does look pretty good. It's nice anodizing. Really nice. Everything's highly polished. I mean, it's a well-crafted little knife. So I'll enjoy carrying that one and report back and see how it works over time. I'm also going to get rid of that because I just don't like it. I wish there was a way to get rid of that easily, but I'm just going to be very careful with the Dremel not to nick that aluminum or anything else. I'm not sure how I'm going to accomplish that or if I'm just going to have to live with this stupid thing. But in any case, there it is. Smoky Mountain Knife Works Edition, Victorinox Farmer X. That little wider, that knurling, it just feels better in the grip than that does. This feels like a toy. It's just, there's something about it. It's just a little too small for my mitts. That plastic makes it feel cheap. This feels sturdy. This feels substantial. I wish it locked. I wish it was bigger. That's kind of what I wish some of these Swiss Army knives would do, is make these 30% larger. Take their standard knives and just make them bigger. Make them maybe not quite this big, but I like this shape. I like that look. But if it was that extra half an inch on the blade and on the handle, that would be, to me, ideal. I don't see it happening. They'd have to do a lot of retooling, and who knows, maybe I'm the only one who wants that. But blade's pretty damn sharp out of the box, by the way. Feels good. Anyway, I've been rambling long enough. 15 minutes just to go over a Swiss Army knife is probably excessive. Anyway, that's the Farmer X. I like it.